Alright, hey you guys. Now, I don't know where I'm going with this. It's just going to come out. Whatever the fuck comes out of my face hole. I have a weird way of expressing myself. I have been nothing but grief-stricken. I know people wouldn't know it. I come on here and I have a good spirit a lot of the time, or I'm talking in an angry fashion a lot of the time. A lot of the time, that's the only way I can cope with the amount of pain that I've been in. Those of you that really know me, then you know the situation. Those that don't, I'm sorry, but however the hell it comes out, it just comes out. Grief comes in many forms and fashions. My family has really been through the ringer the last few years. I've lost two brothers. I lost a brother and a baby niece in the same year within 4 months. My family has just been rocked, devastated. And I spent 6 years, almost 6 years, really covered up in a relationship. A person that had a lot of needs because he had lost a child. We had we've all just been covered up in tragedy. We came together through tragedy. It was like, but I spent 6 years mainly with him getting all the attention, all the focus, and what little part of myself was left to deal with my family, my responsibilities. I have grown children, I have pets, I had a job, I had things to do. I spent almost 6 years just really, and he was hospitalized a lot. He was in and out of rehabs a lot. He had severe alcoholism. He had a lot of health problems, grief-stricken, a lot going on. So my time was covered up. When I say he needed a lot of attention and I almost felt like more of a full-time nurse than I did a partner, which, it's hard to explain, but I knew that, it was just getting to the point where those of you that know me and know what happened and how much I was posting about it and what I went through, I was getting to the point where I knew that what could I do? What could I do? The drinking wasn't going to stop. And those people that were behind the scenes, you people that are with him now, you don't know shit. Because his whole disposition and his whole demeanor has changed. Because, well, he's doing a different substance now. Yeah. That wasn't fair to me. What was happening back then. That was keeping him so... but anyway, you don't know shit. Okay? The family knows. So for those of you who are being twisted, manipulated, lied to, if you stop and ask him, I don't know if y'all are like me, I don't just accept everything at face value. When somebody's coming across to me with a story about their past or what their ex was like or what they went through or yada yada, and they're telling me a lot of shit, I can tell by body language and tone if I need to accept that at face value or not. And sometimes I'll stop them and I'll go, oh, okay. Well, what happened? What'd you do? What's your side of it? What did you contribute to the problem? Because I can kind of tell when people are bullshitting. And some of these people are like that. He's like that. He'll just tell whatever. If you'll accept that shit and you don't ask questions, he will omit. Lie even. But I was always the type of person that would stop him and say, wait. Now, what about... And he's like that. Some people, you have to pin them down to get the full truth. Because here's the thing. I don't think... This is some really deep insight, y'all. Now, I spent a lot of years with people, okay? I got a lot of past experience in my family with personality disorders, mental illness, anxiety disorders. I spent a lot of time with friends who have stuff like that, relationship. I've had a therapist for years, And here's some insight. A lot of times we get very angry with narcissistic people because, damn it, the bottom line is they're so fucking immature and oblivious to everybody else. That's really what it comes down to. Just arrested development. They have a young mind. Something didn't develop all the way. They're scarred, they're wounded, and immature, and they got a lot of bad defense mechanisms. And yes, they take advantage of and abuse the shit out of a lot of people sometimes too. But they're not all the same. But here's the thing. I don't want to get lost on my train track here, my thought. Here's some valuable insight. It's not really that they want at that moment to hurt you or anybody. It's that they want to protect themselves. That's, they first and foremost are thinking about them, how they're going to feel. It's not always that they are sitting up, wanting to hurt somebody else. Or even lie. Now, they can be very vindictive, very spiteful, and yes, they will go out of their way to hurt people sometimes. But the lying thing, I have made some very interesting discoveries and observations about the lying. It stems back, I believe, not for all of them, but for many of them. It's not that they want to sit up and be a liar, but I've noticed sometimes it'll just be omission, and sometimes it'll be blatant lying. But I noticed over time, see, that's what it really takes to get to know some of this shit, is spend a long time with a person like that, watching their patterns, listening to them, understanding their logic, how they operate and why, listening to them about their past, their childhood. That's really what it takes. You can sit up and date somebody for 6 months and read a few articles about narcissism and start talking a lot of shit. Well, I'm sorry for your experience. I'm sorry you went through that in that short time. That's not enough to really know, oh, they came and they acted out and they, took me out a few times, treated me like shit, and that's terrible, but that is not enough to know where a lot of this shit is really coming from and have a deeper insight, okay? I think with the fact that a highly narcissistic person or a person with MPD, I think that a lot of the times when they omit and they lie, and we think, from our perspective, Jesus, this just comes naturally to them. They don't even think it's wrong. You guys have got to understand the mind of a highly narcissistic person and why they're that way. It's trauma brain, okay? And the reason I tell you this is because of my mother. I've lived with this for years, not just in a romantic sense. A lot of people just get stuck there. No, I've seen this since I was a kid. And especially as I got older, my mother has that trauma brain, trauma response. The way she talks, the way she interacts, if she's called out on something, some of those narcissistic tactics with gaslighting and deflecting and squirming. I used to call it squirming. If I wanted to confront my mother or ask her something directly, she'd squirm all over the damn place and I have to pin her down. Look at me, give me eye contact and answer me. Don't squirm all over the room and there's comments in the sky and deflect and okay. So let's destigmatize. Let's get the boogeyman aspect off of the narcissist. I get it. The narcissist in the romantic relationship is an asshole. I get that. But the narcissist, it's out there everywhere. We hear this fucking word so much now, I'm sick of it, but it's everywhere. It's our parents, it's our siblings, it's our coworkers. It might be any of those people, and we have to deal with them in different ways. A lot of times we can't just chuck them out the door. We're blood related to them. And for that matter, we're the narcissist, that word, people say it and they try to make them all the same and they're just not. We're all narcissists, okay? But most of us use our healthy narcissism. We have to have it. It's a survival mechanism. Let's get the boogeyman off of it, okay? It's a survival mechanism. We have to have it. It keeps us motivated. It keeps us feeling good about ourselves. It gets us about the damn bed. It gets us productive. It protects us. Fuck no, I can't do that for you. That's my boundary. Hell no. Don't step on me like that. That is healthy narcissism, and we need it, by God. So, understand it. But it's when that shit goes way up over here into a bad territory, high on the narcissistic spectrum, way high narcissism, okay? Or NPD, cluster B personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. That's mental illness, okay? And a lot of people that have it, they have psychopathic tendencies, psychopathy, or sociopathic tendencies too. And, most of us aren't professionals. If you're living with someone like that, it's going to be really hard to say. It's going to be hard to say when you start picking up on these things. And no, not everybody that pisses you off is a narcissist. A narcissist, that word, we're all narcissists. How do I put it? they're not all narcissistic abusers, okay? I think that it's important that we break it down and we be very specific when we talk about it, so that the wrong people, so that we don't overdo it, so that we don't say it so much that the actual people that are abusing people get by and we miss them, and we're too busy focused on a bunch of dumb shit. We need to be careful with this, okay? But listen, about the lying. A lot of times they will omit and lie, and depends on the narcissistic person you're with. Who are they to you? Why are they squirming like that? Are they your romantic partner, family member? What type of narcissism is it? Is it the grandiose type? They're not going to hide it that much. Or is it the fragile, covert narcissist that's really codependent, and they don't like to show you how narcissistic they are? They don't like to seem like it. They don't like to seem like I'm overly confident. I'm sitting back thinking I'm smarter than all of y'all. I'm really better than all of y'all. It should be me having all of these things. Why do y'all have them? I want you all to fail. You know, the covert narcissist has a lot going on in their brain. They don't like to show people that they too have that sense of entitlement, and I want to run the show, and I don't give a shit what any of y'all want. But they don't have the confidence, like the grandiose narc, to actually walk around showing you that shit. So they'll hide it. They'll pretend to be, oh no, I would never, you know, that's how they are. They mask it. But with the lying and the omitting, it's not always that they're sitting up wanting to, oh, I just want to lie. I just want to be a liar. I just want to do this shit on purpose. I think a lot of it stems back from it's a brain thing, depending on who they are, how they grew up, who abused them. Was it physical trauma? Was it shaming? Was it ridicule by a parent? Did a parent ignore them, abandon them? Did a parent tell them to shut up when they were most vulnerable, when they needed to talk? Did the parent tell them, your shit doesn't matter, nothing you say is important? Or where did they come from? That is what is going to be the factor there. And I've seen it in a lot of conversations. It doesn't even occur to their brain. They've been doing this so long, likely since they were little kids, many of them, in conversation, ducking and dodging and deflecting and lying and omitting. That's their defense. That is their false ego. It's protecting that ego that inside of them that was broken many years ago, that never got to grow, that never got to develop all the way. So they have to put up this false ego, right? And that lying and omitting and not speaking to you directly like we would, it isn't something they even think about. They don't think twice about it. They don't sit up and think, well, you know, if I'm going to be very misleading if I do this, and then it's going to cause conflict with everybody else. And then if they don't think that far. It comes naturally to them to duck and dodge and to omit. You know why? This goes back to some type of terrible childhood wound that they have not addressed or dealt with, and they got conditioned to having to lie to either be safe or having to omit the certain aspects of the truth or how they really felt in order to not be hit, or in order to be liked or get along with the parent, in order to, you know, a lot of narcissistic parents cause this shit for the kid to grow up like that. The parent being demanding, not proud of the child, not validating the child, wanting that child to be the golden child, saying horrible things like, well, you're just like your father, or you're just like your mother, or, you know, demeaning things like that wear a child's mind down, wears down their self-esteem. We have to be very careful with kids and their fragile sensibilities when they're growing up through certain ages. And, you know, a lot of kids just didn't get that. And depending on their childhood, it comes very natural to them to lie, to omit, because they've been doing this shit since they were little kids. Like, feeling like they have to be something other than they are to be loved, to be something other than who they really are, how they really felt, that got conditioned in them somewhere. One of their parents or step-parents or early caretakers, and they have been doing this forever. So that's why they can sit there in your face and they don't even think twice, well, this, and this, and blah, blah, blah. And they'll omit half of it and they'll lie about the other half. And it just, that their brain has been wired this way. It is in there. It's not, Now, yes, narcissists can be very spiteful, vindictive, vengeful, all that shit. And they're doing it deliberately and they're thinking about it. They do know right from wrong. They're very smart. But I just want to talk about that one little aspect of it. Sometimes when you see somebody like that hesitating, omitting, they're out there telling these stories, well, this is what happened, and playing the self-pity card, and they dumped me, and they were wrong to me, and they did this, and they did that. Listen, a lot of times they are omitting and lying. It just comes second nature to them. That's how their brain is wired. But if you stop them, it's almost like they're afraid to tell the real truth. A lot of them have avoidance issues. I had to figure this out, that if you will coerce it out of them, almost like a little child, if you will stop them and say, hey, now, I know you're going down this track. What really happened? Well, what about this part? If you'll pick them, you have to dig it out of them, though, like a child. Like I used to have to sit my little boys down and dig. Little boys don't like to offer up information. They have a hard time communicating sometimes. Finding the words to express their thoughts, their feelings. They may stumble with that. A grown-up narcissist can be very much the same way. You may have to reach in and probe them to make it safe for them to even tell the truth, because it doesn't come natural to them, okay? It's just like having PTSD or panic attack. I know that right now, sitting here in this car, I'm not under any threat. Nope, my dad's not, nobody's going to come through and knock the shit out of me for no reason. Nobody's going to start screaming. I know I'm under no threat. But when a panic attack comes on, you're just sitting here relaxing for no reason. It's coming on. It's because that early programming has not gone away. That takes years and years of work and therapy and sometimes medicine. But that's what happens. It's because your past is so deeply ingrained in everything, your nervous system, and something may trigger it. A bird may fly over, or a siren may go off, or something may happen that triggers something from that early time in your life that your subconscious is aware of, and you may go into a full-blown panic attack. It's similar with a narcissist, because narcissists are carrying a lot of childhood trauma most of the time. That is why they're so narcissistic. That's why they're way up there on that end of the spectrum, or they have full-blown cluster B personality disorder because of so much trauma, so much ridicule, shaming, browbeating, made to feel like they weren't shit, So you will see that it's almost a fearful thing with them. They are almost scared to tell the truth. They are terrified of conflict. They look at it like, oh, fuck, that's bad. Because of their early wiring, because some of them may have gotten the shit beat out of them, or may have been torn all to hell, verbally attacked, told they were awful. You're hurting my feelings, young so-and-so. Don't say that. You don't feel that way. A lot of times people grow up fucked in the head because their fucking narcissistic parents were too emotionally fucked and immature and they fucked the kid up. That's a lot of the way it goes. You don't have to say much to a kid to fuck their head up. Keep on saying that shit. I'm just saying that's what it is, y'all. A lot of times, okay? My mother and I have had deep conversations about this with her own mother, my grandmother, who was a very wonderful lady. I loved her. But my mother grew up feeling ridiculed and less than, even though my grandmother was a wonderful lady. I'll make a video about this someday. Back in the day, they didn't think as much about child's feelings. They just said what they said. My grandmother was a loving, wonderful woman, but she made my mother feel less than a lot of times, and not even knowing she was doing it. We've had a lot of conversations. Damn it, my light just went out, y'all. Hang on. Let me see if I can get it back. Yeah, she and I have had a lot of conversations about it, and I would like to get her on camera for an interview. I think it would be helpful to people for her to give her insight into some of this, okay? So anyway, I'm just trying to do something productive, y'all, with my pain and my grief, and I've been going through it for quite some time now, watching someone I love basically drink themselves to death. I knew what I was getting into to a degree. Yes, I did. But it's been very heartbreaking because I love that person so much. And I tried to stay with them. I tried to make that work. And the way that they ended things with me, I knew that something was going to have to be done. I didn't even get to get into that in this video, and it's getting long, so I'm going to have to clip it. I'll come back in part 2. Just the way it ended was so hurtful and so unnecessary. It was beyond my imagination that someone could act that way. But it's spot on. It is right on time. From what I've read, that how a narcissist will handle the end of a relationship and the things they'll go do, and how quickly they move on with someone else, because their feelings aren't. Anyway, but the point I wanted to make with this particular video, since I got into it, and then I'll come back in part 2 and talk about some more of my grief and some things I wanted to say about the ending of that relationship and how it didn't have to go like that. But yeah, so that's something for you guys to think on. Just a little tidbit about highly narcissistic people and their brain, their defenses. And a lot of times it just comes naturally to them because they're scared. They are scared. Even the toughest of narcissists, it's fear. That is why they lie to you so much. That is why they omit when they tell, and a lot of times they want to look better than they are. A lot of times they'll omit facts, like if Billy Bob Mac over here did this, and this to help do this, and they did this together, and da-da-da-da. They'll sit there and tell the story like they did it all. A lot of times, a narcissist is childlike. It's junior high shit a lot of times. A part of their emotional development isn't there. Got stuck back in the age of trauma, and, they were in so much pain back then that they stopped growing. They were so busy protecting their ego and their feelings from horror, pain, abuse, whatever, that they stopped growing. They stopped developing. Their confidence got stuck. Everything got beat down and feeling bad about itself, and they stopped growing. So even though they may be 40, 50 years old today, whatever, and look that way and sound that way in their part of their brain, they are still a child, okay? That happened to a lot of us. It happened to me too. From the violence and the sexual abuse and everything that I went through in my childhood, for many, many years, a part of my brain was still a child. Even in my romantic relationships or whatever have you, there were areas where I struggled. There were areas where I would regress. There were areas where I just didn't feel comfortable. Or, okay, when you are a child product of abuse and trauma, whatever kind it was, a part of your brain, you need therapy. So I'm just trying to give the insight into some people, not all. There's no excuse for abuse ever. But I'm trying to give some insight into some high narcissism and why it's there. And they're afraid. They are afraid because if they told the truth when they were, and these are people that haven't had any counseling. They haven't had a mentor and a therapist and doing the work over the years to bring them with that one part of their brain, bring it all the way up to 30 or 40 years old, like the rest of their brain. That one part is dragging behind to do with the emotions and the coping skills and and so, yeah, they don't even think twice about it. They lie, they omit, because in their brain, where their brain still is, if they tell that truth, somebody's going to come by and knock the shit out of them. Or somebody's going to think badly of them. Whoever reprimanded them as a child, well, you're terrible for thinking that, little Tommy Jake. Or, well, you are hurting mommy's feelings. You are a bad person. You don't say that. Okay, that shit happens. And there's many other examples I could give of, and sometimes parents don't even know they're doing it. They're just busy at work and they don't have time for the little kid, and the years go on and they don't have time for the little kid, and the kid starts feeling left out or neglected. You never know. Kids are fragile. Any little number of, maybe they came home with a little project and mommy didn't have time to look at it, or dad, got fucking drunk and spilled his beer on the project. I mean, I'm just saying, this shit isn't funny. I grew up in hella abuse. I mean, it is what it is. But you never know. And the kid fragments. They split off. I mean, I think it would take more than that, but you get what I'm saying. After so much of that behavior where nobody pays attention to them, I'll throw that shit down. I'll look at it later. They never get validated. They never get told, hey, I'm proud of you. I'm going to put a star on that paper and I'm going to hang it on the fridge. You know what I'm saying? I grew up in a lot of abuse, but I think it depends. I like paying attention and researching these types of things as why some kids come out with better self-esteem than others, even though we all the fuck came from abuse. We all got beatings. We all got molested. I mean, I'm just saying, a lot of us did. You could line up 50 kids that came from horrific trauma, and all their traumas are going to be different. Some got it worse. Some got it a little less. It might have been emotional, verbal beating. It might have been physical beating. It might have been sexual. It might have been molestation. I'm just saying. But somewhere within my childhood, someone made my self-esteem feel pretty good. Even though I did grow up feeling stupid, ugly, dumb, different than everybody. I had secrets. Things were happening to me. I was poor. I didn't have, I didn't feel like other kids. I didn't feel like people liked me. I started running with an older crowd, a bad crowd. I didn't give a fuck about being a little kid. Really, I didn't get to be one. But something still, even though I had all those insecurities up until I was about 17 or 18, and then I started coming out of a lot of that and getting my own power about me. Oh, I felt like shit a lot of the time as a kid and a teenager, not fitting in at all. Everybody's better than me. They're all prettier than me. All those feelings. But I better clip this. One more thing I want to say, though, is that, oh, fuck, it shot right out of my head again. This was good stuff. Oh, even though I felt that way, something about my childhood, somewhere along the line, I was made to feel okay in my self-esteem. And I'll get into that in another part. The way my father would praise me, some of the things my mother, now she wasn't necessarily the most affectionate of mothers. We didn't have the greatest mother-daughter relationship. She too could be kind of abusive at times verbally, but somewhere in my childhood, in all that abuse between two parents I was made to feel okay about myself somehow. And I guess it would be the compliments my dad would have gave to me. And yes, my mom, even though she was kind of cold and distant and non-affectionate and not very nurturing, she would do little things to let us know she loved us. Like, she would hang our artwork up and make us feel special. She would get us little things that we wanted. She would try to make things happen for us that she knew our heart was set on. That is how I knew my mother loved me. And those are the things that I never forgot. You know what I'm saying? She, too, had pretty high narcissism back then, and she still kind of does. But you learn their code. You learn. She don't have a lot of empathy, not very nurturing, but you learn. So this is why I have so much experience. But I didn't, back then, I didn't know what the name for it was. I didn't really In fact, I didn't really start studying narcissism heavily till about 2 or 3 years back, 3 or 4 years ago. But I was raised with them all my life. Yeah. I just didn't know the exact names for what those brain patterns were, for what those actions were. But now it's all coming full circle. That's why people come into our lives, you know. They may, just by not getting along with us or triggering us, we go on a research adventure and wow, we've figured out our whole life. Shit, we were going through when we were kids, you know? It's cool like that. It hurts, but it is what it is too. You make what you make of it. That's what I do. That's what I have to do to survive it. Or else I'd be sitting over here in the fucking corner dead somewhere. It's that bad. I can make something of it or not. But yeah, so I like looking at stuff like that though. Several people can come from an abusive background. Why do some of them come out of it with higher self-esteem and feeling kind of okay about themselves? Not the best, but okay. And some people don't. Some people don't feel anything about themselves inside. They feel the emptiest, the most worthless, and it follows them all their life. There has to be differences in the way the parents handled it. There's differences in the abuse. Maybe the trauma was different, and maybe nobody said to them, hey, I'm going to hang your picture up here. I really like that. Or, hey, I'm proud of you. You did a really great job. That shit matters with kids. And so that's what I'm interested to know is, you know, what happened to who. And, you know, that's that kind of work you have to go back and do. If you're feeling missing parts of yourself and you feel worthless, you feel low self-esteem, then I know it sounds flaky to a lot of motherfucking people because a lot of people run in circles where this shit isn't talked about. But you got to go back and do that inner child work, period, and learn to love your inner child again and do that healing work. And I'm really proud to see more and more dudes. I got some dude friends right now posting about this very shit. How they go to therapy, how they do their inner child work. Right on. I'm proud to see that. We need to make that the norm so that it is safe and fine for all men to do that therapeutic work, to come forward with their stories, to feel comfortable that they're not going to be judged, to do that inner child work. It must be done. Because a lot of times your parents aren't going to do it with you. They're not going to tell you they're sorry. You're not going to get that closure from a lot of people. You might not. Whoever you went through it with. Anyway, this is getting too long. I'll be back.